All right, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. I'm here with someone who's been on the show before, but in a very different context. Last time you were on the podcast, we were talking about your label and some of the projects you were doing, kind of on the other side of the music thing,
Yes.
as the guy in the background making things happen. But we're here now today to talk about your band that you've been in for a long time, and that's coming to a very interesting end. So I think
Yeah.
that the best way to start this off is if you want to just introduce yourself and give a bit of background about the band, because I mean I think a lot of people who listen to this podcast will be familiar with you, but yeah, just maybe a quick close notes on the history would be great.
Absolutely. My name is Adam Fuhr. The band is called Yes We Mystic. The other stuff I do is House of Wonders Records is the record label that I run, and that's what I've been on the podcast talking about before. But yeah, the band Yes We Mystic has been the main focus of my life for the last 11 years. It's our
Wow.
11th birthday today. And we're putting out our third album called Trust Fall on October 21st. And we have announced it will be our last record, and that was kind of woven into the creation of making it. We knew it was going to be our last when we set out to create it, and that was really interesting process. And yeah, it was our time of kind of realizing and accepting the end of the band and deciding on the end of the band was already a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And making this record was always meant to be kind of a finale, and something that we decided on going into it, that this was one more thing that we wanted to make, and we wanted to make the best record that we could. And yeah, we're now only a month away from it coming out, and it's very surreal.
It is for sure. Did the pandemic have anything to do with this decision to end the band, or was it already kind of headed in that direction sort of before this all happened?
The pandemic helped us like mask it, because we're in a place where we're taking a little break anyways, and so it looked to everyone as though we weren't playing shows because the pandemic was happening, but we weren't really going to be doing that in the summer of 2020 anyways. We had just gotten off putting out our second record, and
Yeah.
we toured in Europe and throughout North America then, and so it was kind of our off year anyways. And so no, it didn't really have much to do with that decision. It was, as I said, the band kind of been the main focus for us, and is a very full-time commitment. And at that point we had started to see different people in the band pursuing different things in their lives. I was starting House of Wonders.
Yeah.
Our drummer Jordan runs a community health clinic now. Our cellist Jody's and pursuing law school, and so there's all these different things that we're doing. We realized that full-time commitment couldn't be what it had been. And what we knew we didn't want to do was kind of half-assed things. That's never how we've kind of done it, or kind of put everything into both making and releasing an album. And so we decided then, let's make one last record, and really focus on one thing at a time, just making it the best that we could make it. So weren't sure at that point if we would play any shows, or if there'd be videos, or how the record could come out. We've had we're working with a record label from Germany called Devil Duck Records for many years, and
Cool.
we didn't know that, hey, we might not be playing shows for these new songs, so we didn't know if they would be interested in putting it out again. And we just focused on one thing at a time until kind of the picture of the whole emerged. So that's started with just these writing the songs, and then recording them at my studio at House of Wonders. And then turns out the label was really keen on putting them out, Devil Duck Records. And so we we're kind of, very, very excited that, that we're going to be working with them one last time as well. And somewhere along the way, we realized that the one thing that we couldn't do to our own standards was put on a show or another tour in the way that we had in the past. And so kind of when we set out, we said we'd only do something that if we thought we could kind of top ourselves for the last phase. And
Yeah.
so we're not doing that, but we have a live video that's forthcoming. It's 17 minutes long. It's our longest video we've ever made, and it was really nice to come back together, and we have some past members as well that had been in the band years ago. One of which, Solana, came in from Vancouver just to
Oh, cool.
film this video, and so having 7 of us together, all playing some of the new songs, it kind of fulfilled that bit of the live performance for us, and the getting together week in and week out to rehearse for that was a really nice experience.
Well,
Just this kind of closure for us in that regard, because we've been practicing 3 times a week for
for
whatever,
years, I guess.
eight,
Yeah.
9 years, and then the pandemic happened. So that was truly the end of, like, we would practice if we had something coming up or not. That was kind of how we always did it. And so the pandemic definitely was the big break in doing that. So this was nice, and getting back into that rhythm a little bit for that concert film was nice.
Did getting back together, and especially having the past members come in and everything, did that kind of make it difficult to want to stop? And then now that you're having this experience where 7 of you are together, you're working on these new songs, you're playing live in the sense that you're
Yeah.
filming these videos. Was there any kind of like hesitation, like maybe we should continue going after kind of going through that?
I think it was so just baked into the process of trying to stick the landing of the whole thing and make it like,
Yeah.
we've always done art projects alongside our record and our records, and I know as an audience member, I've been disappointed when bands I like, when the quality kind of goes down, or if it's everything's not how it had been in the past. And so for us, it was just this focus on, we knew we were coming up to the end, but we didn't want to decline in any way, and working our hardest towards that. So definitely playing together brought up a lot of old feelings, and made us realize how lucky we are, and how lucky we had been all these years to get
Yeah.
to perform together. And certainly a lot of memory lane we've been going down, but in terms of questioning what we knew is coming, not so much. I mean, definitely lots of big feelings when we were
Sure.
together in that.
Well, I like the way you're going about this. I think is really cool because I think most bands, when they're ending, they're not in this position, right? Something happens, or someone quits, or people just get sick of it, or whatever the reason is. Like it often seems very abrupt, and a band will play
Yeah.
a last show or put out, whatever they have recorded because they need to put something out because things are ending. But you have this very planned out, and even the marketing for it has been very deliberate. And it just seems like every step of the way you've had this sort of very well thought out ahead of time, and
Uh-oh.
it makes for an interesting way to do it for sure. Like I don't think most bands get that opportunity when they are about to end.
It yeah, definitely. It's a very, kind of strange situation, because a lot of times in bands, someone can't stand each other, or it's ending because of kind of interpersonal stuff,
Yeah,
or because and we all get along very well, and we all love making the music together. And so it's it did put us in a very unique situation where we thought, okay, so we all want to do this, and we all want to do as much as we can, and we want to make it as good as we can. And so it was just a matter of managing the time, and what everyone could give at every given moment.
yeah,
And in some ways, having that stress lifted of what the record could accomplish for us, or what. There is that bit when you're in a band and you're in the middle of it and you got tickets to sell and a tour coming up and all this, and that can be a strange place when you're trying to be artistic at the same time. And so for us, having that part of things lifted, I've actually saw the different members of the band engaging much deeper in ways that we hadn't seen in kind of years, and just in that artistic way, I felt like we got to dig deeper on this record, and then we had the opportunity to, and sometimes it was really nice to sending the demos to Jordan, our drummer, and he's sending me back 10 pages of notes. And I went, wow, for our last record, he wasn't sending me 10 pages of notes. That's just not where we were, not where we, or had time for, not what, not his, where his head was at. And so in this situation, I was like, oh my God, we're all wanting really, really deeply for this to be something special. And so it was a really cool situation.
Well, you said a few times tonight, and even just looking at kind of the way this record is being promoted, is that the idea is you want to do the best thing that the band could do, and kind of like you said, top yourselves. Is that freedom to kind of knowing that it's an endpoint and not having all of that peripheral stuff around the record? Do you think that's helped to make this record as good as you guys feel it is?
That's definitely part of it. I mean, it's having what essentially amount to pressures and distractions not being there is one thing. Another just comes from, I think, maturity as a band. We've put out records before, and we had a really clear idea as the records started to shape up of what it could be and what we wanted it to be. There's also like my day job is producing records, and so from the last time we made a record, where for me that was one of the first things I got to produce fully, to now where I've had a lot of experience doing that. It also opened up, it's difficult to juggle those two things, to be the musician and the producer, but I really challenged myself to try to look at the songs in the same way I would if I was producing someone else's music, and kind of attack it with the same rigor of trying things in different ways. And so that led to, like, 4 or 5 different arrangements on some songs where there's like totally different feels and instrumentations and vibes. I mean, part of that came from certainly the pandemic amount of time sitting around the house but I mean, that's the type of thing, like, to get to rework a song that many times and finally land on something that feels perfect, in terms of the emotion of it and of the sonics of it, and to have that already discovered before we're going in to actually record the final version of it was something we hadn't really had before. And so that was another exciting part of it all.
I mean, this is maybe a silly question, but what happens if this record blows up? Like, what happens if it just does incredible? I mean, obviously, I hope it does, right? But what happens if it's become something that is maybe bigger than anyone in the band would have expected it to? Is the finality of the band, like, how final is the finality of the band?
My friend Amos the kid, he's obsessed with asking me this question as well. What happens when you sell 1 million copies? Well, then we'll feel pretty good about ourselves, I guess, and we'll give ourselves the old pat on the back and go, wow, that was a wild ride. I mean, we're all we'd probably all go out for drinks and cheers big time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a good
And
answer. I mean, I think
we're
like what you said at the
looking
beginning,
about for what else we could release
you can
after
fix up
that.
your studio with the
Ride the
proceeds you
wave.
get. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I kind of like what you said at the beginning too about how everyone has moved on to other things in their lives, and that's kind of one of the things that happens when you've been in a band for more than a decade, right? Is that things change for everyone involved, not just as far as being musicians, but just as far as life. And the pandemic's a great example of something that affected everyone, but everyone individually is going to have stuff going on. So, how do you think that obviously the sonically the band has progressed over this time, as it naturally would, one would hope anyway, if you're playing together for as long as you have. But
Yeah.
I guess what do you think is sort of the end result of the sound? Like, did this group get to where you thought it would have gotten to kind of when you started? Like, I guess, how does your opinion of what you were trying to do when the band first got together, how does that mesh with where you are now, where this album is, and all that?
Mhm. That's a great question. I mean, when we started, we were teenagers, and we were playing. We were meeting at our friend's house in the basement, and we were playing. We were totally acoustic, playing on a couple borrowed instruments. Like, we didn't have money for an amp or anything, so it was all like acoustic guitar, mandolin, banjo, upright bass,
Oh,
and violin. That was our first um like the first lineup of instruments. And so at that point, like, we were always trying to play around with song structure and interesting rhythms and things, and trying to push against what we could do with what we had, and try to come up with something surprising for the instrumentation that was there. And so as we grew, and as we were able to get different instruments, and kind of come into a sound that we had in mind, it's always been kind of playing with expectations, either
yeah,
in a genre, or that we set up and then try to knock down after, as it were. And so I think now we're at a point where any sound, any and anything you can think of is our palette, and we're not shy about playing around with all of that. And I think our last record is where we played with palette the most, and it made a lot of really dense songscapes, and it was really I would say a dense record. And this record is, for us, the perfection of that, in that it takes a step back a little bit towards like really focus on the emotion of the songwriting. Was we have complexity, and we have just like singing your heart out. Those are always kind of in the two poles of the band from the
yeah,
beginning. And I think last time, obviously, we're always trying to juggle those two. And the last record that we made, it's called 10 Seated Figures, and it was really complex in its themes and its execution. And this one, I think we just got that balance right into the middle, right where we wanted it. And that's kind of how I see us progressing, is always just finding that line
yeah,
in between those two things. And that, yeah, as I said, with the like rearranging songs many times, it really allowed us to play with like how you know how surprising do we want this to be sonically, how what elements do we want to add some familiarity back, but also have these moments of surprise. And for example, like on the last record, we were running everything through guitar pedals, and if there was an acoustic guitar on it, you would never know that sound was coming from an acoustic guitar. And in this record, it was we're trying to make the parts surprising, and not the sounds quite as much.
okay.
I don't I didn't use a guitar pedal on my electric guitar. I think the whole record, it was
Oh wow,
guitars and amps and getting sounds that way. And if the part was supposed to be surprising, I'd write the part to be surprising and not the sound. So it was a different approach in that. And it felt very good. Felt like a good, we finally found that balance that we've been really chasing for.
Well, the timing worked out then, I guess, right? You
Yeah.
found the balance in time for the last record. But since you're not doing a release show, I mean, you're not doing shows. This is the
Yeah.
end point. How do people get this record? I know it's not coming out for another month or so from when we're recording this, but
Yeah.
what's how are people going to find it? Where do they go to find it? How would you prefer that they get a copy or listen or whatever?
Yeah, well, we're not doing a live show. We are doing one event. It did sell out right away, so this is not a plug for it, but
Yeah.
we're doing a screening at Cinematheque of all our past music videos, as well as the premiere of the new piece that we've made. So that's very exciting. We will have the records for sale there. They'll be at all the regular music stores, and we're going to be doing a pop-up. We haven't announced this yet. Maybe by the time this is
Yeah.
airing, we will have. But it's going to be at Riley Gray, a store on
Okay.
Cordon, and we'll be there selling merch the day the record comes out.
Cool.
And yeah, online, there's a lot of people have been pre-ordering it and stuff as well. And so yeah, and then just Spotify.com,
Yeah.
all those.
All the places people tend to get music these
Yeah.
days. Yeah. Yeah. Just speaking of online, is there going to be still a presence for the band after it's over? I mean, are you going to keep? Maybe this isn't something you've even thought about yet, but are you keeping social media accounts and like websites and things up, or is it is when it's over, it's over? Like, because now you can exist kind of perpetually, right? Like this without being active.
Yeah, I think not super a lot of I know that like for a time after the album comes out, we'll still
Of course.
have more to say about the record and the video that's going to come out. We'll probably, after it's had a while to breathe, we might go back and then release a song at a time from there, things like that. I imagine we'll keep our website. Our we didn't even really touch on the Trust Fall Hotline, the phone line art project.
Yeah, that was very cool to see. Yeah, yeah.
But that, I think we'll probably keep that number going for forever, hopefully.
Well, quickly before I let you go, can you explain how it works? Because yeah, that is a really cool idea.
Yeah. So we've always tried to expand on the themes of our records with these art projects. And this time we wanted something that could be accessed from anywhere, because our label is in Germany, and a lot of our fans are in Germany. And we wanted to make an experience that you could spend, and it's up to you, 5 to 12 minutes, really having something tailored to you. And so we spent a lot of time trying to figure out what that would be, and we realized that we could use an automated phone line to this effect. And so it's essentially a choose your own adventure kind of one act play type thing. There's some moments that feel like guided meditation. There's some moments that feel like some bizarre horror type tinged moments, and there's it's gone really well. I mean, we've had hundreds of calls from all over, and we didn't even kind of announce it at the beginning. We just started putting up posters,
The
and
posters, yeah, yeah.
people started tagging us in photos from all over, and we just didn't acknowledge that it existed, because we wanted it to exist out in the world for a bit before we talked about it on the internet. But I don't know, maybe I'll go ahead and just drop some fact about it that we've never
Sure, go for
acknowledged
it. Yeah.
yet. It's since the day we announced the record, you can listen to the whole record if you choose the right things on that phone line.
Very cool. What's the number? How do people access the phone line?
Oh, off by heart. I don't know. 1-877 3 4 I got one right here. 1-877-347-5231.
Right on.